Here we go. Brendan Donovan is going to be a Seattle Mariner in 2026. Welcome to the Dom Skiing Channel, your one-stop shop for the Mariners storylines on Seattle's minds. And that's right, breaking news, Jeff Passan-Baum. First person I saw report this, Katie Woo, used to be with the Cardinals, now with the Dodgers. The Seattle Mariners are nearing a deal to acquire Brendan Donovan from the St. Louis Cardinals as part of a three-way trade that also includes Tampa Bay, sources tell. A deal that has been considered for weeks would finally land Seattle a versatile impact bat. And first, we're just going to look at Twitter because it's absolutely going crazy right now. I mean, all the stuff is coming out. We are waiting when we are going to be streaming until we figure out what this trade package is. So sit tight, get locked in, get prepared, because we're going to be here for as long as this takes. We're waiting for this trade package. At this point, right, the news is public. The cat's out of the bag, so we know that this trade package is probably going to come out today. I'd be shocked if this trade package doesn't come out by tomorrow. Honestly, I'm thinking this trade package is going to be out within the next hour, max 2 hours. But right now, Justin Hollander, the same one that I was right next to at FanFest yesterday, they saw that Gino Suarez move. It looked like Brady Farkas might have been right. Shout out to him on the Refuse to Lose podcast. Said he thinks that the Mariners would sign Suarez despite the clunky fit and ask questions later. But now what it looks like is that they were looking at that Eugenio Suarez reunion, whereas Jerry DiPoto's comments and what I've been saying kind of falls in line with that. I didn't think that Gino was even a possibility really for this team based on how poor the ballpark fit was, which we've been talking about on this channel for a long time. However, clearly something happened in those last 24 hours. Just 23 hours ago, we got that, it's about exactly 25 hours at this point that Gino Suarez signed with Cincinnati. In that division, the Mariners go pluck a player from that division now, from the NL Central. Brendan Donovan, all-star with the St. Louis Cardinals. So, we're going to be doing a whole lot here. We're going to be talking about Brendan Donovan, talking about what we think the trade package is. Sit tight, relax, because this could be a long one, folks. And it took me a minute to set up this stream. I haven't streamed since, I think, 2022. It's been a good 4 years since I've done a stream on YouTube. So, this news is big, probably the news of the offseason, the shocker of the offseason. This has been a long, long saga. And I'm sorry for, there is a few expletives on the screen. I do not curse, or I try to keep this channel PG, but we're just going to be looking at the raw stuff right now. We're just looking at Twitter. So Katie Woo, shout out to Katie Woo. She is the one who broke this news 30 minutes ago, 1:25 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trade news, St. Louis Cardinals finalizing the trade. She has great sources in St. Louis. It makes sense that she would be the one to report this. Multiple sources are telling The Athletic. So multiple sources. Who are those sources? We don't know. Katie Woo's sources in St. Louis are great, though. A third team now has been leaked as the Rays. So there's sources talking about this stuff all over. And this is where we kind of revert to one thing, which is that the MLB tells us a lot about what they know just by what they do. Sometimes when the MLB has something going on, the fact that they have this trade package getting finalized and that's the report we get rather than the trade actually coming through. With the package also, coming through within the next, 10 minutes, which is now, it's been about 20, it's been 32 minutes since we got the original report from Katie Woo. Obviously they're finalizing this package now because it seems like the cat's out of the bag. It would be pretty surprising, although not unprecedented, if this move somehow didn't go through, because now that it's public, the two teams can't come to agreement on exactly what the package is going to be. And put everything you have to say in the chat. I will be reading the chat and responding to you guys. Shout out to my boy Jack Adicott, been on this channel in the past. If you were watching back in 2020, one of those 10 subscribers that was, you will know Jack, and you will know that we were doing the Mariners pre-games, post-games together. Jack said this, he said, whoa, this has to mean that Cole Young is on the move. that is the centerpiece of this trade package. If we go back to videos I was doing in December, early December, late November, I was talking about how if the Mariners are going to make this move, the Ketel Marte move, the Brendan Donovan move, let alone the Ketel Marte move, Cole Young has to be the centerpiece of the trade package. Because if you don't want Cole Young to go play second base for you, we need to just capitalize on that value ourselves. This has to mean Cole Young is on the move. Surely Cole Young is part of this package. But another possibility is Michael Arroyo. We saw, and I have a clip that, shout out to everybody interacting with the clip, the shorts that I just posted while this news was coming out, actually. I was getting all my YouTube shorts up, all the clips I have from Dugout Dialogue at FanFest. I have one that I have yet to post, but Justin Hollander is comparing Michael Arroyo to Howie Kendrick, saying that he's going to get a lot of hits in a Mariners uniform. So from that, what does that tell us? Okay, well, if Cole Young's on the move, then certainly Michael Arroyo stands to play a bigger role. But if not, maybe Michael Arroyo is the one on the move to the St. Louis Cardinals. What do we know? Anyway, definitely, this is a good day for the Seattle Mariners. You are acquiring an all-star. You're acquiring a guy. And, we're going to go here. Brendan Donovan. We're just going to go and kind of break down Brendan Donovan in real time, live. Haven't done this before. Shout out to, the people watching. We are going to be here until we get this trade package. So, Brendan Donovan, right, made the All-Star team and was a Gold Glover as well. Let me go ahead and fix this. There we go. Dude went to, South Alabama, was born in Germany, but this dude's just a 5'11", 210-pound. This dude could play running back, it looks like, based on the physical profile. If I was going to do my player breakdown, which there will be coming in the next week or so, probably within the next day or so, as soon as Brendan Donovan officially gets put in a Mariners uniform on a picture or something like that, we're going to have a player breakdown up on this channel, so make sure to subscribe for that. Road to 500 by opening day. And Brendan Donovan is always a career above average hitter. A 119 OPS plus is nothing to scoff at. Gino Suarez, 780 at-bats at T-Mobile Park in Seattle, had only a 114 OPS plus or something, and that's with hitting a ton of bombs. But that's because, obviously, the batting average is so low. Brendan Donovan, consistent 280 batting average guy. And now, here's where I do want to address a little bit about, I've been kind of a detractor from all the Brendan Donovan rumors. I haven't talked about him nearly as much as a lot of these other Mariners YouTubers because I was willing to ride with Cole Young. I thought Cole Young was an incredibly interesting player to look at and ride with, but it does tell us something now, and we should have maybe noticed this. Cole Young wasn't in any of the FanFest festivities. He was not at Dugout Dialogue with all the other young guys who were pretty much everybody in his position was. He was not on the autograph signings. So Brendan Donovan, the Brendan Donovan trade was clearly in the works this whole time. All this, where there was all this smoke, there was fire. I was happy to ride with Cole Young. We broke down Cole Young. If you're a Cardinals fan watching this, go watch my Cole Young breakdown and on this channel as well. And you'll see everything I had to say about Cole Young. We might even have to go through and look at all the stuff we said about Cole Young himself, see what the Cardinals are looking at and what they want from this. So actually, that's what we're going to go do here first. I know I'm kind of jumping around, but this was back 92 days to opening day. Now it's 52 days. So exactly 40 days ago, Christmas Eve, we broke down Cole Young, why the Mariners won't and shouldn't add second base help for 2026. The Mariners banking on Young. There was this report out of The Athletic saying that, the Mariners don't want to tie up second base with a Marte or a Donovan, and basically, so if the Mariners acquire Donovan, who also bats left-handed, he would likely get the majority of his playing time at positions other than second base, is what they said. Funny enough, right? And what I also said is, it really only makes sense if you were going to trade Cole Young for one of these guys, because otherwise there's a whole lot of value that's going to get lost in translation. So you look at exactly, I was talking about the Braves in 2021, one with a whole lot of young players and stuff, and that was making that case. But the Mariners don't need to do things exactly how another team did it in the past. We do have a lot of young prospects developing and stuff. That's how the team still shakes out. But if you're a Cardinals fan here, the case for Cole Young is pretty clear. You got a 22-year-old with a top 100 prospect pedigree. Unlucky last year, got BABIP'd, with a 247 batting average on balls in play. Under club control till 2031, though. And the fact that he was unlucky last year, that means that his batting average is very, very likely going to be better in 2026 than it was in 2025. He was even hitting 250 for part of the year. There was a part of the year where Cole Young and Ben Williamson for the Mariners were both hitting around 250. Both of them finished in the lower side of that 200 to 250 range. However, both of those guys definitely have the skills to do 250 260, 270 numbers on the batting average. And now that Cole Young gets to go to St. Louis, it is actually good for him because he does pull the ball in the air a lot. And in Seattle, that's a notoriously hard thing to do. We saw what happened with Geno Suarez trying to do that. But you don't have to do that now. You don't have to worry about that now as much if you're Cole Young, because you're going to a ballpark in St. Louis that can be more advantageous to that. But the real charm with Cole Young is the fact that he walks a ton and he doesn't strike out that much. And for a 22-year-old with 6 years of club control, you guys are getting a guy who, Nolan Gorman is an absolute all or nothing bat. A whole lot of power in that lineup in St. Louis. I actually like Nolan Gorman. I mean, he was so hot when he came up, obviously hitting bombs left and right. But Cole Young now, as a lefty, walks a ton, barely strikes out, pulls the ball in the air a lot. He is a darling among the MLB sources, that we're getting all this information from. They think of Cole Young a whole lot higher than we do. And that's, referencing that quote in The Athletic where, it's not just the Mariners who like Young either. One rival executive describes Young as the league model darling right now. So it will be tough to see Cole Young go. Not going to lie about that. As a Mariners fan, I was pretty excited for Cole Young having a long, steady career, being a really good top 8 to 12 second baseman in the game for the Mariners. Now, the case against, right, Cattell is you could trade him for Brendan Donovan. And, Brendan Donovan's been an all-star. Young hasn't shown that yet. Past results do not predict future performance, but, there's a very real world where Young is better than Donovan this year, hits a whole lot more homers, and that makes up for maybe a little bit of a gap in batting average, but Cole Young could very easily hit 270 this year with 25, 30 homers. He hit a ball 480-something feet. And I even 456 feet to 480-something would have been the longest Mariners home run of the entire year. And it was initially estimated at 470, though, because it was almost to Seattle's third deck. He's not necessarily someone you want to replace at 22 years old, but the Mariners now have Brendan Donovan, so it doesn't actually matter. The obvious numbers for Cole Young don't do him justice. The Mariners were trusting him. I see it. It's hard. It's not hard to see him breaking out. He already did in the minors beyond his draft position. He's extremely modern. All this stuff. Important quotes, right? From his scouting report, it's like, he's shown an exciting ability to hit the ball hard to all fields from the left side of the plate. In St. Louis, that'll play real well. He projects to hit right-handers well. The models also like his defense, right? All these things that the Athletic said. But moving on from Cole Young, getting back to the Brendan Donovan deal. Showing you guys my notes there. Anyway, it's my first time streaming in a while, but had to get on here. Couldn't do a pre-recorded video for this because we just got to stay on stream now until we figure out what this package is going back to the Cardinals from the Mariners. Is it Jurangelo? Is it going to be one of those guys that was at dugout dialogue? Jurangelo Saincha, as this news came out, Jurangelo Saincha was, I was uploading a clip asking him a question yesterday at Mariners Fan Fest. And William, who's been one of my top interactors on this channel recently, shout out to him, he came into the chat and said, all this talk of giving runway to young players was smokescreen. I understand where you're coming from, and I kind of agree with you. Uh, there are. I think it might be a little more complicated than that. And I think one of the things to learn here from this whole Brendan Donovan saga and how it's going right now, how it is likely to end, is that it's never so black and white, and it's never quite a yes or a no fully. I think that the talk of giving runway to young players definitely helped the Mariners in these negotiations as well. Because when you say, oh, we're going to give, runway to young players, we're not worried about trading for a second baseman, that gives you much better leverage, when you're going out and trying to trade for these guys, saying, hey, I'm not operating from a position of desperation. I'm operating from the position of I like my players, but if you have somebody that you're willing to give me that can, I think is worth more than the package that I'm giving you, I'm willing to entertain it. And I think, we just broke down Cole Young here, right? I would have loved to see Cole Young get a shot. I was a big proponent of that. Now, also, does this mean that Colt Emerson has a chance to go play some second base where Brendan Donovan shifts into right field, Victor Robles, shifts around? I think at this point, right, I want to kind of get through Brendan Donovan and just look at some of his stats for his career, because it's like, okay, this guy's had, a 4-WAR season in 2022, 126 games, 2-WAR with just 95 games in 2023. 2024, 2.61, 153 games. 2025, 2.7 WAR in 118 games. So he's really good at not playing every single day, shifting around the lineup, and still being an all-star, still, winning a Gold Glove as well in 2022. The Mariners clearly were never willing to sacrifice defense. If they were, then they might have gone and got Ketel Marte. They might have just paid that astronomical price to have the best offense in the American League and, totally bludgeon teams with offense. But it doesn't necessarily make sense. William, who is the third team in the three-way trade, the third team is the Tampa Bay Rays. We got that news. Katie Wu originally reported this. So then 20 minutes later, exactly, 1:25, the trade was reported. 1:45 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for us on the West Coast in Seattle. The Tampa Bay Rays were reported by Jeff Passan as that third team. So, there's reporters working together, sources working together to figure this thing out. Katie, can we get return details? Thanks. Somebody's saying, Laz Montez and 7 players to be named later. Obviously, I doubt that like a Laz Montez is going to be in this deal. I think it's going to be some sort of mishmash of Cole Young. I think you're going to have, Cole Young has to be in this package because the Mariners were not going to give up on Cole Young. Cole Young for Brendan Donovan, almost straight up. I would not be surprised if it's that. I think Cole Young is worth a whole lot more than people realize. And Jude says, Williamson to the Rays. No, please tell me that's not true. Oh boy. We're going to see what's going on here. I'm just going to search Ben Williamson. My heart will break if Ben Williamson is gone right now. Oh, Ben Williamson. To the Rays too. They just signed Jake Fraley. They know how to use this profile of a pesky player. Ben Williamson's going to be an all-star with the Rays. No. Oh man. Well, my heart just broke a little bit. This was going to be one of my favorite Mariners to watch this season. I had multiple people coming up to me at FanFest yesterday asking me if I was Ben Williamson, telling me I looked like Ben Williamson. I think that he is such a good glue guy. Man. If Ben Williamson is, the one that goes, Bob Nightingale also with USA Today, as I am as well. Man. That hurts. William said this will be the first three-way trade that Dipoto will be involved in. That's pretty surprising, isn't it, considering all the deals he's made? But he's backed off in recent years. Once he's got his guys into the farm system, he's more protective of trading his prospects that he drafted, like, Cole Young, all these different pitchers that he's had. All the prospects basically in that top 10 of the Mariners pipeline right now, he doesn't want to trade those guys because he drafted them. He has a development plan for them. When it was the old regime's guys or guys that, even when he didn't have as much influence, there was still leftover, not just leftovers from like the Zarenzik, back in 2016 and before, but also guys that before he completely dominated the philosophy of the Mariners organization, were guys that the organization was picking up that he didn't necessarily love. Maybe he liked them. But here, you see, guys like there was the pitcher Tyler Williamson, or I can't even remember. Not even, I don't think it's Tyler, but there was like a pitcher, the pitchers that were traded for Luis Castillo, the pitchers that were traded for Suarez, the guys who were in those trades, I don't think that those weren't like super Dipoto mold prospects. Ben Williamson clearly is. He fits the control of the zone. He fits he fits all of that so well. Man, I will be very upset if Ben Williamson is indeed off the team. However, it does open up a whole lot, and so now, man, I'm gonna make a copy of this because I don't want to ruin this one. This is gonna be the official Mariners org depth chart we have, but I'm gonna make a copy right now just that we can go ahead and try to parse all this together and see what this lineup is about to look like in next year. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out a little bit. I can shift stuff around, so let me know if you guys want me to zoom out, shift stuff around, zoom in so it's easier to see. Whatever you guys want me to do, I'll go ahead and do. But so we're going to mess this whole thing up. Let's say that all the rumors from today are true before they come official. Now we got to take some names off the board, unfortunately. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to, man, this hurts. But we're going to go ahead and take Ben Williamson off the board. Cole Young, not officially off the board yet. We expect that he will be. But let's go ahead and just move everything down a notch. And we're going to put we're going to pencil in Brendan Donovan, second base. And now, you've completely opened the runway up. Colt Emerson is going to be on the opening day roster at this point. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're going to have Colt Emerson probably starting at third base, unless somehow Cole Young is still on the team. The scenario. The other scenario is that Cole Young starts here and Brendan Donovan starts over here. But in this case, obviously, you move these two down. Colt Emerson, we're going to have to turn him into, you can see we got our key up top. Majors is the teal, so we're going to go ahead and put that teal on. Colt Emerson, you're our guy. I knew I was going to screw this up. It's all good. And you've got a whole lot of lefties as well. Colt Emerson, he's a lefty, so this lineup is going to be incredibly lefty heavy. Does it matter? If Colt Emerson plays like an all-star, it's not going to matter, right? JP is, a lefty too. Rob Refsnyder was clearly a necessary signing at that point. It's very possible, by the way, if you're just joining while we're looking at this, right? Brendan Donovan slotting in here at second, right? He could start at third base. Cole Young could somehow still start at second base. I would be pretty shocked, though. William, thanks for doing some research on the side here. Jerry gave away Ketel Marte, Freddie Peralta, and Chris Taylor, who are all Jack Zarenzik era picks. So he was willing to trade away those Jack Z era guys to get guys who fit his profile more. Mitch Haniger, Gene Segura, guys like that. Not to mention Taijuan Walker was in one of those Arizona trades as well. So then Freddie Peralta, a guy who wasn't a big-time pick. Chris Taylor was a bigger-time prospect who he was willing to give away. And then I think that was, I can't even remember the Chris Taylor. I think I wanted to say it was for Aaron Harang or something. But I think that was before that. Anyway, if you're just joining, it is confirmed. Brendan Donovan, or it's not confirmed. Actually, nothing is confirmed, I should say. Brendan Donovan is close to going to uh, the Mariners, and Ben Williamson is gone. Um, oh man, to go from Brandon Lau to Gavin Lux and Ben Williamson is the most demoralizing thing ever. Rays fans are going to love Ben Williamson. I don't know if any Rays fans are by chance watching this, but man, my favorite player. And look at they. So I was comparing Ben Williamson to who? Jose Caballero, Jake Fraley, both other. Those were guys from this regime too, from Jerry Dipoto. The Rays now have all of Jose Caballero, Ben Williamson, and Jake Fraley. The Rays are going to be the new control the zone team. The Rays are going to be the scrappiest team in the big leagues. I mean, and you've got that entire division is just stacked. You've got the Yankees, who are going to be trying to get back to the World Series after missing out on it this past year, but having Cam Schlittler, become this absolute capital D dude in the playoffs. I mean, Aaron Judge obviously, is going to do his thing. And they brought back a bunch of guys, didn't necessarily get a whole lot better, but the Yankees are going to be competitive, very likely going to be in the playoffs. You got the Orioles side and Pete Alonso, and made a whole lot of moves to try to get better this offseason. Then you've got, the Red Sox, who are not laying down in the dirt. They've got a whole lot of young guys combined with a whole lot of older guys who are going to be pretty good. You got the Blue Jays, who just made Jose Caballeros on the Yankees. I don't know what this guy's saying then. Is this like a Mariners fan? I have no idea what this guy's saying then. I was thinking that like Jose Caballero, like, I guess this was a Mariners fan who's upset that Ben Williamson and Jose Caballero's left. So that makes a little more sense then. Because I knew, Caballero was on the Yankees, was a hero in the playoffs for him. I suppose now it's going to be, those guys aren't going to be on the same team. But the Rays have Jake Fraley and Ben Williamson. They're going to be the scrap. So, you've got the Blue Jays just made the World Series. The Yankees obviously going to compete. Red Sox obviously going to compete. Orioles got Pete Alonso. They're going to compete. And yet the Rays are just going to send out Jake Fraley and Ben Williamson and foul every single pitch off. I think that is actually pretty fascinating. And to see how the Rays do, that is like cutting edge baseball stuff. That is the control the zone philosophy pretty much. And look at this guy probably hating on us over here. Probably doesn't even know who we are, but thank God I don't have to hear about how good Ben Williamson is anymore. You're still going to hear about it from me. I mean, I have to pretty much stop talking about it and have to start talking about, okay, we're going for batting average now over fouling pitches off. Gone are the days of Shed Long, Dylan Moore, Sam Haggerty, Ben Williamson. The only guy who does the real control the zone philosophy to the fullest without trying to hit homers is J.P. Crawford. So you've got that one protector in the lineup. Ben Williamson's not the only. If we just got Brendan Donovan, guys, chat. What if we just got Brendan Donovan for Ben Williamson alone? If that's the deal, then I have to say all of the hyping up of Ben Williamson, it definitely worked, because if Ben Williamson netted the Mariners an all-star in return, I do not blame them one bit. Ben Williamson is a guy. So the Rays definitely have acquired Ben Williamson at this point. He's gone. You're making Ben Williamson out. No, we never made Ben Williamson out to be Edgar or Kyle Seager, but we did make him out to be Jake Fraley, Jose Caballero, and the perfect ninth guy when you've got 8 guys that you're trying to have hit homers and kind of be top 8 to 12 players at their positions. I mean, Ben Williamson was the perfect guy to add to that. And the people mad at his exit velos and stuff, we definitely got to go back to Brendan Donovan here in our search bar, because man. Oh, you know what, chat? This is why Ben Williamson got pulled from Dugout Dialogue. This is why I got pulled from Dugout Dialogue. Oh, man. That's why. Yeah, so the top of the Mariners lineup now, Brendan Donovan, Julio, Cal, Naylor, Randy. That is a 1 through 5. Honestly, I mean, if you told me that was going to be our 1 through 5 a couple of years ago, when it was that scrappy 2021 team with Ty France and Mitch Haniger being the superstars, I don't know what I would have said. But now we've got to ship this lineup around because, yeah, Ben Williamson's off the board. Breaking news, guys. The second piece of breaking news of the day: Ben Williamson is officially off the Seattle Mariners. Definitely kind of a shocker. I don't think anybody expected Ben Williamson to be the piece. But again, I think maybe the MLB values Ben Williamson way higher than the Mariners did. Or sorry, not the Mariners. Sorry. Way higher than we did, because we thought it would have to be Cole Young. What if somehow it ends up being Cole Young stays, Brendan Donovan's now here, and I mean, at this point, if we haven't figured out about Cole Young going, I think we might be looking at this. We might be looking at we might be looking at this, and then go ahead and just delete this. What if this is what we're looking at? You got Randy, Julio, Robles in the outfield still, all right. But then the infield is Donovan, Crawford, Cole Young, Josh Naylor. Williams said Ben's comp was David Bell by Scott Hunter. I think that's a pretty good comp, right? And David Bell, again, was on the 2001 team that was an excellent team. Had all sorts of all-stars, had 8 all-stars in the all-star game at one time. But David Bell was the perfect guy just to play around them, to protect them in the lineup, and to do that 9-hole job. I mean, you need glue guys on the roster. You need guys that can accent the other guys that aren't, and there is team fit. This is not quite as rigid as football team fit, where it's like, teams are just not going to draft that safety because he doesn't fit their play style. But it's more like, when you're building a lineup, okay, we can fit it this way. And then when you're building a defense, you can fit it this way. I mean, this does make sense. The thing is, we just got a whole lot more left-handed. I mean, it's not even going to be funny. You've got all left-handed third basemen, which is cool. You've got basically at this point, right? You then Master Boney is gonna get moved out of here. You're gonna go with these 3 here, and Donovan then moves into that spot, backing up Cole Young. The thing about trading Williamson is that it makes the roster absolutely fit better, because now you don't have to worry about fitting. You were going to have a lineup problem if you had traded just Cole Young for for Brendan Donovan anyway. No matter what, you were going to have some sort of roster fit problem with how everything was constructed. And we don't have a full return yet. We don't have a full return yet. We're going to get that as soon as we do. I'm expecting now that Passan, reported right after, I'm expecting it's going to come from Passan's account, that we're going to get, the return details for St. Louis. Is there a chance? And we haven't even talked about the return that much here. So let me go ahead and start talking about that a little bit. What if the return is actually, Ben Williamson goes to the Rays, Brendan Donovan goes to the Mariners. So now it's like, what are the Cardinals getting? What if the Rays are just paying off the Cardinals to get Ben Williamson? And then the Cardinals just end up getting kind of some sort of, Rays prospect mishmash. In fact, let's go look at Tampa Bay Rays prospects. Rays, look at the 2025 top prospects. Okay, who could the Rays have given up to the Cardinals can make this work. Jacob Melton, this dude, played at Oregon State. I remember watching this dude in college when I was at Washington State myself. Let me see if I can shift this over for you guys a little bit. Okay, that should work. Let me know in the chat if all this shifting around is all good. But anyway, the scouting grades for Jacob Melton, this could be a piece that goes back to the Cardinals. Actually, I mean, do they still have a crowded outfield? I think they still got Dylan Carlson, Jordan Walker. Let's see. So maybe Jacob Melton is a possibility right there. Slater DeBrun, another Pacific Northwest guy. This guy came out of Oregon. So this guy could be going back. A guy who got picked this year. You could have Anderson Brito be one of these guys that's going. I've heard a little bit about him. Looks like he's an older pitcher. Prospect, 21 years old. Mid-rotation starter, ceiling, high leverage reliever if durability continues to be an issue. So that's the type of guy. Maybe the Cardinals just got a whole bunch of bullpen help. And now I just had a thought. What if, since Shine Bloom took over as the Cardinals GM, remember he was in the AL East with the Red Sox. He was seeing a lot of these Rays guys. I don't know how much he was scouting, planning to make a trade with the Rays, but he definitely knew what was going on. Yeah, Williams said Katie Woo must know what the Cards are getting. Either Katie Woo or Jeff Passan at this point has got to be the one to tell us what's going on. All this stuff on Twitter I don't even want to worry about. I don't even know what's going on Twitter. There we go. Jeez. All right. Astros fans freaking out over Brendan Donovan. We didn't have a much better player on our roster over him. So the Astros were in on this, apparently. And let's see. Yeah, okay. This is definitely not looking good. Everybody just left. But whatever it is, I'm staying here till we figure out what this return is. We're going to be figuring that out as well. There's a possibility it's just Ben Williamson that the Mariners had to give up. There's a possibility that they just gave up Saintja. There's a possibility that they had to give up more. Let's see. Oh my gosh. All right. Twitter is a pain. Anyway. Yeah, if you have questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. Shout out to William, keeping this chat alive right now. As good as the Mariners were last year, strikeouts were still a bugaboo. Great word choice. That's the word of the day, bugaboo. Sixth worst in MLB. And when you acquire Eugenio Suarez, that's kind of what you're expecting to have happen. Donovan is 95th percentile in whiff percentage, 92nd percentile in K percentage. So he's elite at, not whiffing, not Kane. And in T-Mobile Park, Brendan Donovan is going to be a great fit. We talk about park fit. All the factors are on the table, right? These guys did months and months of research. And we remember back when all this saga kind of first started around the winter meetings, Shine Bloom had just taken over as the Cardinals GM, and he himself said, we're going to wait until we kind of evaluate all these prospects holistically in our organization. We're not just going to rush to make a deal. So he said, it's at least going to be a week or two, while we figure out what these prospects in our organization are worth it all. And while we go, get a holistic view from our organization standpoint of how all these other teams' prospects can help us. So I didn't expect this to be a huge, I didn't expect this to be some sort of huge like trade that that was going to happen right then and there. I didn't expect this to be like some short saga that was all going to get packed into a week or two, or less, or maybe even like a month. I expected this thing to take a long time, and this timing makes a whole lot of sense. It makes sense why Ben Williamson got pulled from dugout dialogue. This dude was signing autographs yesterday at FanFest for the Mariners, and now goes to Tampa Bay so that the Mariners can get Brendan Donovan from St. Louis. And yeah, basically, anyway, if you just joined, welcome in. We are streaming until we figure out what the return package is. So we're covering everything, breaking down Brendan Donovan, his fit with the Mariners, breaking down a little bit about Ben Williamson, why the Rays wanted him. That's a perfect fit for him, and it makes total sense. Breaking that down, why, we thought Cole Young at first was going to the Cardinals. I would not be surprised if the entire package was Cole Young and Ben Williamson. So let's go take a look at how the depth chart would shake if that was the case. So we got to zoom out here a bit. Try to make this make sense. Yeah, we don't even have to look at the pictures. Gosh, this is annoying. Okay, there we go. So, it's Mod Taylor. I forgot to take him off here. Anyway, right now, this is what we were thinking it was going to look like with Ben Williamson out of the picture. But if we look at, it's almost been it's been an hour now. So 125, the initial trade was reported by Katie Wu. About like 135 or 145 Passan, between that range is when Passan said this is a 3-team trade and includes the Rays. And now the only piece that we don't know is who's going to the Cardinals and what's the full package. The Cardinals haven't got anybody yet out of this whole kerfuffle that's going on. So what do we think is going to happen? Probably Cole Young is gone. So let's take Cole Young off the board here, see what that would look like. You move Donovan back up, starting at second base, and let's go fix these lineups up as if this is the case, because I think this is starting to look more and more likely. The Mariners right now could be doing everything in their power to keep Cole Young, or everything in their power to send Cole Young. They could be, and the Cardinals could be doing everything in their power to get Cole Young, or they could be arguing to try to go get somebody else and putting pressure on the Mariners now to get Jurangelo Saintia. He was just moved to a right-handed pitcher. That announcement just came out earlier. So there's a good chance that Jurangelo Saintia is part of this move as well. At this point, what I think is the most likely scenario is that the Cardinals are putting pressure on the Mariners to take one of those pitching prospects. I think they're trying to take Jurangelo Saintia. I don't think they're even going to try to be taking Cade Anderson, excuse me. Johnny Farmello, I don't see being a part of this deal. I just think that there's too much unknown with him. And he seems like, I don't know how close he is. I don't know how far away he is. Seems like he's an outfielder, but, he's got power speed, but, he's got all this potential, but there's no sure thing. He could move super quickly, or he could take a while. There's really not a whole lot we have to go off for Johnny Farmello. A little bit of minor leagues, then he really broke out in the Arizona Fall League this past fall while the Mariners were in the playoffs. So a lot of Mariners fans didn't even hear as much about that. But as a prospect, Farmello, is great. So we could afford to lose some of these other position playing prospects. Maybe they want to steal, a Michael Arroyo off our hands. And maybe, even though Justin Hollander yesterday said, welcome in everybody. Just so you know, we are streaming until we get the return package. Right now, we're looking at what this whole operation for the Mariners is going to look like in 2026. And what we've got figured out right now, we think that, we know Ben Williamson is off the Mariners, somebody who I on this channel thought was extremely underrated. We don't know if Cole Young is off the table yet for the Mariners in 2026, if he's gone to the Cardinals, but we expect that to be the case. Do a quick Twitter refresh. All right, nothing yet. So we're over an hour now since the trade was reported. We do not know what the actual return is, but we know Ben Williamson gone from the Mariners. We know Brendan Donovan is a Seattle Mariner. Um, and so here's what we got for defensively. I'll go and fill these fourth positions in later. You can just assume Miles Mastroboni here. There's plenty of other third basemen in the Mariners system, like Caleb Cali and stuff that could be put in there. Anyway, the lineup now, let's just go and do the lineup versus right-handed pitchers. Let's go ahead and take Cole Young off the table, replace him with Brendan Donovan. Let's go ahead and slot him into the top. I could actually do this, and Ben Williamson as well. So these two guys that I had projected, the 8 and 9 hitters, it was Cole Young and Ben Williamson. I think they're both probably gone now. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Let's go ahead and insert Donovan at the top here. Now, do we think Randy is going to hit second in this scenario? No, I think Randy leading off was something that they tried at the beginning of last year. But if Donovan is here and hitting leadoff, then I think obviously you probably don't put Randy at the top. I think you then move him to the middle of the order. We could look down. I'm going to do this Randy Arozarena breakdown. I was actually going to have that out today, assuming it was going to just be a regular, slow old news day, although that's obviously not the case. And one thing we'll look at is where Randy Arozarena sits in the middle of the order, kind of, how does he do, what are his stats like from the 3, 4, 5, 6, really the 4, 5, 6 holes, because that's where he's looking to be now. Do you hit Cal or Julio third? And then, okay. Oh, Sherman says Jurangelo to St. Louis. So now we've got that. We've got that. I'm not gonna show Twitter on the screen because it keeps. Okay, Mariners are indeed getting Donovan from the Cardinals in a 3-team trade that will include third baseman Ben Williamson going to the Rays and pitching prospect Jurangelo St. John going from Seattle to St. Louis, according to a source. Now we've got Ben Williamson and Jurangelo St. John for Brendan Donovan. Chat, do we think this is the entire package? Let me know, chat. Do you guys think that the entire package is Ben Williamson and Jurangelo St. John and the Mariners get back Brendan Donovan, or is there going to be more? I could see some smaller throw-ins at this point, but I think that we were right when we said a couple minutes ago St. Louis is putting pressure on the Mariners to get whichever guy they really wanted, and it seems like that guy was Jurangelo St. John. So Jurangelo St. John, if he ends up being gone, he was a guy who the Mariners really had a kind of a hard time compartmentalizing everything he did into their plans for 2026, 7, 8. He seems more like he was going to be a 2027 guy than a guy who's going to make his major league debut this year. Because the switch pitching is awesome. They just made the news that and the lineup, yes, is extremely left-handed, absolutely. But the thing with Jurangelo, right? The switch pitching had him going. In college it was awesome because on your college team you pitch one day with one hand, the other day with the other hand. You're taking up 2 out of 3 of the series. You're doing a whole lot of work for your college team. With the Mariners, right, this was never going to be what he did in the big leagues, is start one day with one hand and one day with the other hand. That's, not feasible for a number of reasons, most of which we probably don't even know. Now, you look at, you got Jurangelo going to St. Louis. Why did they want him is the question. Is it because the Mariners made the decision to say, hey, you can just focus on pitching right-handed and then we can still use you left-handed out of the pen? Because that would have been really, really interesting. But was that the case? Does St. Louis like him as a righty? Then William said Ryan Bliss makes more sense as righty infielder. I would agree as well. This kind of frees up some openings for Ryan Bliss in this season. Oh no, sorry. You're saying that Ryan Bliss would be the one who goes in the trade. Do the St. Louis Cardinals want Ryan Bliss? At this point, honestly, I think we got to maybe go to roster resource for the Cardinals and see what we've got going on there. Because let's see. So, yeah, everybody loves this trade for the Rays. The Rays kind of people know what to expect from their team, and that makes sense. I say everybody, but I just saw one person say that, so I really don't know if everybody does. All right. Just going to keep refreshing every couple minutes or so. But you look at the Cardinals, so Brendan Donovan off the board for them, right? Second baseman, they can just have. I mean, Nolan Gorman came up as a second baseman. Does he stay there? They've got Jose Fermin, Thomas Sagasi. I think they had Sagasi, whatever it is. If you're a Cardinals fan in the chat right now, let me know how Sagasi is pronounced. I know I've been told this before, but I obviously forget. So JC, right, could move into that second base spot for them or something. Or Cole Young. At this point, I don't think Cole Young is... Ooh. Maybe Cole Young's not part of this deal, guys. If it's Durangelo and Ben Williamson that the Mariners gave up, I don't think it's that plus Cole Young. We might have to put Cole Young back on the board here. And we might just have Brendan Donovan playing super utility at an all-star level. And I never even finished this lineup, so we're going to go ahead and go back to this lineup. Do we think that in this scenario, chat, do we think that, say Cole Young is off the board, Ben Williamson already off the board, do we think that Julio or Cal is going to hit second in this scenario? For now, I'm going to move it up just like this. You're going to have JP hitting ninth at this point. I don't see another. Ryan Bliss makes more sense on M's roster. All right, thank you, William. At this point, right, you've got Brendan Donovan is second base, Raleigh, catcher, Rodriguez, Naylor, Canzone, Robles. There's two positions that I'm missing here. And then, I've got to put Brendan Donovan back over here. I think, actually, Ryan Bliss makes some sense on the M's roster, but if you're saying with this bench here, and then I'm forgetting Randy over here, so we're going to go ahead and slot Randy Rosarena in here, and Colt Emerson. How do we slot them in? We're probably going to end up going Randy just to break up the big clump of lefties there. You can put Randy in right there. You got Robles there. And would you have I think at this point Robles fits a lot better in that 8 hole. And then you slot Colt Emerson in right here. And I think it's going to be money. Well, then it's Canzone followed by Emerson. Or would you, do you protect Canzone with 2 right-handers around him? Or do you protect Emerson with a right-hander after him? Let's see. I kind of like going Colt Emerson right there. I think he is pretty mature, and I think getting him a lot of at-bats at this point makes sense. I could see it going either way with Robles in the 8 or the 7 here. But I think this is what your lineup is going to look like. And at this point, I don't even know if Cole Young is gone. Obviously, we've got a lot of moving pieces right now. So I'm going to go ahead. Everybody take a hydration break. All right, we got no big news quite yet on, is that the final deal or what's going on? But we know that, indeed, Brendan Donovan's a Seattle Mariner in 2026. Ben Williamson's a Tampa Bay Ray in 2026. We know that at this point, Colt Emerson is making the roster. I mean, he doesn't have to because Cole Young is probably still going to be here at this point. But we're going to make this whole thing kind of work out here. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be so left-handed. And if Cole Young is not part of this deal, this is the bit you run into a huge roster problem because Cole Young does not fit on the bench at all. And if you were talking about, Ryan Bliss on one of these bench spots, the reason that I didn't do that is because Rivas plays the utility. He can, fit in at short, fit in at third. If you in a pinch you might even be able to fit in at first, even though he's 5'7". Ref Snyder plays that, versatile bench bat role. I mean, he's obviously going to be part of the team, paying him $6.5 million almost. Then with Rayleigh, obviously, he plays that first base outfield role that we need the backups and the platoon bats at. Kinsner's the backup catcher. I don't see space where Bliss gets onto the roster right away. So versus right-handers, you're saying Rivas at third and Bliss at second. That would be an extreme platoon split. And in that scenario, I'll go ahead and show you what it looks like over here. But so you basically have Ryan Bliss jumping all of these guys, and you said versus right-handers. I assume you mean versus left-handers, right? Because I did have Rivas starting here, kind of as side of that platoon with Cole Young, kind of giving him some protection. But let's just say versus lefties. Does Brendan Donovan play versus lefties? This is where we got to go look. I'm going to open up even another tab here. This is the key. And the reason, by the way, I'm sure you guys have seen this before. It's like I'm always putting go ahead, center this. I'm always putting the Mariners days till their opening day. So Baseball Savant says 51 days till opening night. That's like there's the Yankees and some other teams playing, but the Mariners, play their first game on the next day. So that's why I put 52 days till opening day, because we are a Mariners channel. So, and then, 8 days till pitchers and catchers, 30 till the WBC, 18 days till spring training. Mistake, let me know. Oh, if you're talking about the opening day, then I just explained it. No, I'm doing it for the Mariners opening day, not the MLB's official opening day with the Yankees and stuff. Oh yeah, and you're saying versus lefties, so I got you there. But we're gonna go ahead and look at Brendan Donovan real quick, because I want to go ahead and see what he does. Obviously, you got his Baseball Savant, his spray chart. You see, quite a bit of pull doubles here. Not a whole lot of a whole lot of opposite field doubles. The dude singles all over the place. Looks like pretty even distribution. And homers, it's basically only pull side homers. Doesn't necessarily bode well for him to be facing righties. And look at that. His platoon splits last year were extreme, to the point you had a 230 average versus lefties, 315 versus righties. So against righties, Brendan Donovan makes our lineup, one of the best in the MLB. Against lefties, we're now definitely going to be without as much protection, without Ben Williamson. And that's kind of what I was worried about there. It looks like, at this point, I think Brendan Donovan is a really, really good super utility platoon bat. But 230 average against righties. I just don't know if you're going to end up doing that. And you look at his entire career as well. Ty Pete to St. Louis. Oh boy, more news. Thank you, Aaron. Ty Pete. And okay. So that is the entire return. We have finalized the return for Brendan Donovan. It is, go back to here. Cole Young stays. The big news here is that Cole Young stays. Cole Young survived the Brendan Donovan trade. And that, I think, is this, other than the actual trade happening, that's the storyline of this entire thing, is the fact that Cole Young survived this whole thing. And he's still on the team. So at this point, right, you've got a mishmash. You've got Brendan Donovan here. Maybe the idea, we shouldn't be so high on Colt Emerson. Maybe we should just be saying Donovan goes at third here. Emerson is going to go behind him. And I didn't even clear out a spot on the bench for Emerson, so he has to unfortunately stay in the minors in this scenario. Obviously, this is going to change throughout spring training a whole lot, but you've got this, right? I mean, Donovan is going to be the third baseman in this scenario, and you don't have necessarily a righty side of the platoon unless you're putting Leo Rivas over there to, to play against lefties. So, William, you might actually be correct. I'm going to go ahead and kind of go with what you're saying, because at this point, I mean, Cole Young can't go back to AAA, can he? I don't know if you guys know this meme, but it's like, it can't go on like this, can it? And he says, it can. It's like the Blackpool manager or some soccer reference. Probably nobody even getting that. But I don't know, maybe at this point, Cole Young goes to the minors. Colt Emerson ends up being up. Brendan Donovan looks like probably going to play every day at third base if this is the case. And I still think Ben Williamson has a chance at winning the 2026 American League Gold Glove. I absolutely do. I don't think he's a worse fielder at all. Obviously, making this trade, the dude is a great fielder and, is probably going to go win the Gold Glove. And I would not be surprised if Ben Williamson is an all-star for the Rays. And that's how the Mariners have a chance, to lose this trade in the future. Shit. Got to lock in here. All right, let's undo that. But basically, maybe it can. Maybe, it can. And you can go. It can go on like this for Cole Young. You find a way to do that. Really, it's more like that. And then, you're going to have a lot of positional flexibility. And I haven't even talked about Ty Pete, but it looks like Ty Pete was not part of the Mariners' plans. The Mariners clearly went for value when they had those 3 first-round picks in Seattle when the draft was here. They had, obviously Colt Emerson, then Johnny Farmello, and Ty Pete. And, Ty Pete's the only one who didn't hit massively. Ty Pete still hit. He's still a good prospect in the Mariners system, but I think he's more in that. We go to the top prospects list. Mariners, Ty Pete, you see, was all the way down there at 11. And the one thing that they say, oh, the speed, great. The run tool and the arm tool were 60, which are tools that are the Mariners going to be able to use. Sure, but the Mariners are not going to find a position for him. We have a lot of speed and we have a lot of arm right now in this kind of setup. So definitely don't need Ty Pete. He was going to have a hard time fitting in here. Jurangelo is probably the big piece here. You give up Jurangelo, then you have to give up Ben Williamson. We don't know yet what Tampa Bay actually gave up to get Ben Williamson. But that was a sneaky, excellent deal by them. If by chance there's been any Tampa Bay fans here, you guys don't know how lucky you are. You just got the perfect Rays profile. And versus right-handed pitching, Donovan at third, Young at second. Yep, we got to make that change. So you could go ahead and slot Cole Young in there. And that works. That would be the lineup versus righties. Now let me go fix this lineup. Ben Williamson. Can we get an F in the chat to pay respects to Ben Williamson? Man. Now we got versus lefties. Unless chat you see something that I don't, Brendan Donovan's going to be playing every day. I know he hit 230 against righties, but you're probably going to live with him. You'll just fit him in lower in this lineup. Rivas, does he take that side of the platoon with Colt Young? We'll go ahead and say he does. And then we'll say that instead of leading Brendan Donovan off, you just put him down here against lefties. So I think you're going to feel comfortable enough doing that against lefties. JP doesn't get platooned too bad. Like his platoon splits are just fine. Like he is so scrappy. He does that control the zone thing that Ben Williamson did. He's kind of the last vestige of the control the zone. Kind of the chapter 1, volume 1 of the Dipoto era. Ref Snyder and Robles in the middle here. Do you break it up with a Crawford? Let's just go ahead and say you do. And yeah, Donovan at third, Young at second. And hey, I mean, the big news of the trade package is the fact that Cole Young survived, which is, I mean, kind of against all odds. That's probably the most shocking part of this entire thing to me. I thought for sure if this deal was going to get made, Cole Young was going to St. Louis. It just made too much sense. But they're going to run with like Thomas J.C. and guys like that. So yeah, versus righties, obviously Young plays versus lefties. Rivas plays. I mean, you've got quite a few platoons now. I don't see how you can platoon Brendan Donovan is the thing. You don't have any other third baseman at this point that are right-handed. Even if say Colt Emerson was right-handed, you wouldn't platoon Colt Emerson. If you're gonna have Colt Emerson, go in the bigs, you're gonna just have him start every day, pretty much. So this is pretty tricky. Not sure exactly what the lineup is going to look like every day, but it's going to be more fun looking and seeing how these first several lineups of the season, and honestly seeing how these first several lineups of the Cactus League and spring training go. We've only got 18 days till spring training. So we're going to be doing pregame and postgame for all those. I know they probably won't be on TV. A week from tomorrow, we find out. We were able to buy the TV package for the Mariners. And maybe then we'll get more news about what spring training games are actually going to be broadcast and stuff. But what do we think of this? We got against lefties, Julio leads off. Maybe you go Randy. We're going to break down Randy Arozarena tomorrow, and we're going to look at both where he fits in the order the best, based on his kind of production in the past. And that'll determine whether we go like 5. Honestly, he could fit in that 6 hole behind Canzone as well against righties. But as well as, should this guy be the leadoff hitter versus lefties? Is he just a absolute lefty masher and somebody who we can just trust to go, be the leadoff guy versus lefties? Let Julio kind of take that 3 spot and get a little more protection. But for now, right, we could look at lineup versus lefties as it's lineup versus righties. Donovan, Raleigh, Rodriguez, Naylor, and sort of sacrificing defense for offense. I actually somewhat agree. Donovan is a Gold Glover, so it's hard to say that. But Ben, do you mean like Ben Williamson getting traded? I'm curious, or do you mean something else by that? Because I'm curious if that's Ben Williamson and Donovan related, or if what exactly you mean. So expand on that. I'd love to hear what you're saying there, because I think you do have an interesting point. But real quick run through the lineup. Against righties, leading off Brendan Donovan, a lefty, playing third base. Hitting second, you got Cal Raleigh, switch hitter, catcher, obviously. Third, Julio, righty. Fourth, Josh Naylor, lefty. Fifth, Randy, righty. Sixth, Canzone, lefty, part of that DH platoon. Seventh, Cole Young, a lefty. Eighth, Robles, righty. Ninth, Crawford, lefty. Then with the lefties, the lineup versus left-handed pitching, right? You got William said the M's need to get leverage right-handed relief pitching as the next step. Dennis Santana. I actually will take a look at that before we end the stream. Anyway, lineup versus lefties real quick. Julio leading off in center field, righty. Cal Raleigh, switch hitting. You got a pretty good distribution here. You can just look at this on screen as I go through. Julio leading off, Cal second, Randy third, Josh fourth, Rob Refsnyder fifth, Crawford sixth, Robles seventh, Rivas eighth, Donovan ninth. I don't know if this is exactly what it's going to look like. They might be tweaked a little bit, but this is pretty close to what you're going to get. Um, the DH platoon in the middle of the order, I think, is going to be really, really good. Donovan, yeah, I mean that lineup versus righties is just absolutely. I mean, this is murderer's row right here. Donovan, is going to just be a perfect leadoff guy. 315 average against righties last year. Does not whiff a whole lot. Does not strike out a whole lot. Then obviously Cal Raleigh needs no introduction. 60 homer switch hitting monster. Best slugging season in Mariners history last year. You got Julio, who, I mean, Julio is the odds-on favorite to win the MVP. Cal, you could say Cal should have last year. I would agree with that premise. Julio did or does have the odds-on to win it this year. So you got 2 MVP candidates in second and third. That's what you need if you want to be, kind of like a World Series favorite type of team. And do the Mariners move up in their odds to be World Series contenders here? Like, does this massively improve that? I think it definitely will. The question is how much does like Vegas and stuff like this move? Because that's just another bunch of statistical models that we can listen to and see what do they think of this. How much weight do they put into this? Now Naylor hitting fourth. Hitting cleanup. Then Randy hitting fifth as a heart of the order guy. I think against righties, that's the right spot for him. Going to look at his lineup spot splits before we kind of make that full decision. We'll talk about this tomorrow a little bit more. Actually, I mean, at this point, we're probably going to be talking about this Brendan Donovan stuff just a whole lot more this week. But Canzone hitting sixth. I mean, you got a guy who hit 300 last year. Randy obviously goes on tears. They come in bunches for Randy, but remember what he did in July. Naylor, remember how much he helped this team coming over, and going left on right. I mean, is his strength. So you got that. These top 6 spots in the order against right-handed pitching are just that. Is there a 1 through 6 versus righties that is more menacing than this in the MLB? I mean, you got the Dodgers, but this is built to destroy right-handed pitching. Cole Young should be really good against righties as well. And, we should be facing a whole lot of righties because, are there a whole lot of lefties in our division, in the AL? There's Skubal. There's not as many left-handed starters that are really elite at this point as there has been, though. And you remember how Skubal kind of mowed the Mariners down. So, this lineup versus lefties is maybe more worrying today without Ben Williamson. Brendan Donovan as a lefty in this spot versus Brendan Williamson, who was a righty who, we've talked about that ad nauseum, and it's over now. But it looks like we've got, it looks like you've got a few guys who are going to be having that advantage. Julio, Cal, obviously still going to have that advantage, being really good from the right side. And then Randy, going to absolutely need to mash lefties this year. Ref Snyder is now one of the main pieces of that, of this whole left-handed lineup. If you were to list the hitters in this left-handed lineup, the lineup against lefties, right, that you are the most confident in, you'd say Julio, any order of Cal and Julio, then Randy, and then it would be Ref Snyder. He's the top half of the order bat against lefties. He could be hitting cleanup. He was absolutely crucial to doing this whole thing. If we didn't get Rob Refsnyder, I don't think we could have made this trade. Just because we would have been Rob Refsnyder balanced this entire roster out so much more. And that's one that we called, a few days before we made the video. Rob Refsnyder is a perfect fit. A couple days later, the Mariners signed Rob Refsnyder. That was just the best fit that was out there to balance this entire roster out. Then JP moves up against lefties. I don't know how I feel about that. Whether it's going to be, but he's just better with the platoon splits and stuff. And that'll kind of break up some of the monotony when you have some of these guys doing a little worse. But maybe it's that you just go ahead and you could put Leo Rivas and Victor Robles easily above JP in this kind of thing too. And then you could have Crawford and Donovan just trying to get the pitch count up, do all the Ben Williamson stuff, be a pest at the bottom of the order against lefties. Does any of this change? Pinch hitters versus lefties. Well, you can't do Leo Rivas because he's starting in that scenario. I guess no, these are for relievers that I have these. Like if a left-handed reliever comes in, overall, who are the top, and say Leo Rivas is in the lineup, Rob Refsnyder's in the lineup, well then Kinsner, which you don't want to pinch hit your backup catcher, obviously. So in terms of pinch hitting versus lefties, you're gonna be kind of in a tough position there because, who are you gonna pinch hit against lefties? When Refsnyder and Rivas are both in the order, you've got Young and Canzone on the bench. It's going to be Rayleigh, Canzone, and Young. That's going to be tough. You're not going to have the kind of that flexibility. And Bliss, I think Bliss could definitely fit in this roster better now. William, get to some of your questions. Cole Young is pop over Ben. Absolutely, Cole Young has way more home run potential than Ben Williamson. And Cole Young has definite 20, 25. We were talking about it at the beginning of this video, this stream. It was he's got legitimate 25 home run pop, 270, 25 homers, not out of the question for him. And if he figures it out, which he's got a great plate approach against the lefties, the Mariners kind of let him out there against a lot of lefties last year, when it might have been easier to keep that batting average high for him if he would have, if he would have been in the platoon. But they kind of just wanted to let him out there and deal with the growing pains, even though they were competing. So it clearly means that they see him as a guy who won't be a platoon bat in the future. They'll think that he'll hit both sides of the plate. And clearly they value him a lot. They just kept him, in this entire package. They were more willing to let go of Ben Williamson for a reason. Then Refsnyder has played second base, maybe versus left-handed pitching. I see what you're saying. Talk about sacrificing defense, right? That would sacrifice defense a whole lot more because he's just not that type of, you need a particularly agile, short area quickness. You need agility. You need to be able to just go any direction real quick. Usually a short guy would be pretty good. Refsnyder's not the biggest guy on the planet, but he is not a agile guy. He's not somebody who you would you call agile. He's a stocky built type of guy. Maybe probably even has a little bit more, in my guess, sneaky acceleration on the base pads than he would at second base, just based on the athletic profile. And also the main thing too is so let's say you do put Refsnyder over here at second base, right? Well, then Leo Rivas would have to DH anyway, because it's not like you're going to have Canzone hit against lefties. You're ending up with a whole you're kind of not fixing the problem anyway. You're still going to have a whole lot of spots to fill. The bench is still going to be full of lefties. So I don't think that would really make a difference. Unless, however unlikely this seems, Dominic Canzone emerges as an everyday player and not a platoon guy, then that's the only scenario in which I see Refsnyder getting worked in as second in those scenarios. So I'll go and do a quick look at Dennis Santana before I end the stream. Actually, no, I'm going to save that for another day. I don't. I think there's a chance we get that some news about a right-handed reliever in the next couple days. Right now, as you can see on here, right, the bullpen, obviously Mooney, Brash, Bizzardo, Locks, Vargas, Legumina, Criswell, all kind of questionable, and Hancock. I think if I had to just gun to my head, had to do this right now, I'd probably choose Hancock um, in the bullpen over a Criswell. But I would keep like Legumina and Vargas just for the experience that they have. Let Criswell figure some stuff out in the minors. I mean, both of these two guys, Criswell and Hancock, are between being a starter and a reliever. And I don't know if their teams have known exactly what they want to do with them, but they're both really athletic, pretty lanky, like 6'4" and 6'6" guys with a lot of talent in their arms. They're just like, hey, that's a pitcher we want on our roster. We'll go ahead and figure out the rest later. And whichever one of those guys it is going to be the long relief option too for the inevitable 1 game a month, 1 to 2 games a month where you aren't competitive, where you're getting blown out, whatever it is. So you probably, I don't know if you have in the chat, right? If you have any idea which one you'd rather have on the open day roster, right? Criswell or Hancock as the 6th spot in the bullpen. Would Dennis Santana be better? Fine, I'm gonna do a quick look at it because we got 7 viewers. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Appreciate all you guys for coming out today. Definitely the longest video. Because it's a stream and we've been going for a good while here that we've done in a long time. Let's take a quick hydration break though before we do this. Quick hydration break. Cheers, everybody. Drink your water. Make sure drink some water if you haven't already with me. And now we go, Dennis Santana, great profile last year. He's on the Pirates. You'd have to trade for him. The Pirates they want to add money to their books. They want to try to start competing. Will Paul Skeens is under contract. So does it make sense from their perspective to trade Dennis Santana? You might have to trade like a Cole Young, right? This would be kind of a hard trade to work out because you're going to have to trade them some sort of win now piece. As crazy as that sounds. Would they want to go, would the Mariners want to go Cole Young for Dennis Santana? I don't think so. They just protected Cole Young in this Brendan Donovan trade. That's the reason that this thing didn't get done probably for the last 2 months. That we've been talking about it, almost 2 months. So Dennis Santana, is this a guy that we're going to go ahead and acquire I don't even know if anybody knows, who has their own YouTube channel. Are you allowed to show those like random video, where it shows a pitch from an MLB broadcast on Baseball Savant? Are you allowed to show those on YouTube? Do you get copyrighted? If you have any idea, let me know. But anyway, Dennis Santana, he's 46% slider guy. The Mariners love sliders. Just look at Matt Brash. Munoz in the playoffs as well, 90% slider usage. So the Mariners love this profile, and maybe they look at him, super endearingly like they do Jose Ferrer. But I don't know, like Jose Ferrer was really, really good with a whole lot of talent that hadn't been unlocked yet. Dennis Santana's already unlocked it. Probably going to, he was 16 saves, probably going to go into this season as the Pirates closer again. So you're probably going to have to trade something of pretty good value for him, and I think that might be where this gets tripped up. Is it really worth when you've got a bullpen like this? Like Munoz, Brash, Bizzardo on the right-handed side. Not to mention, I feel that might be. Yeah, but you've got, Munoz, Brash, Bizzardo on the right-handed relief pitching side, right? Then you've got Spire, Ferrer on the left-handed side. Do you, you feel good about those leverage options? 3 from the right side, 2 from the left side. Do you really want to add a Dennis Santana as like the fourth reliever. That pushes Criswell and Hancock both off the major league roster. You're definitely not getting as much out of your depth at that point. I guess, oh, by the way, go ahead and you could add Brendan Donovan in here. Actually, we're going to go ahead and let's see where do we move Brendan Donovan at? Probably move everybody here down one. And then Canzone and Donovan, I think that's where I start to debate who's the better hitter. If you have an opinion, let me know in the chat. Canzone or Donovan? I know most of you are probably going to say Donovan, but Canzone is so good on his side of the platoon. So I think that's probably where that lines up. I backfilled this, with other hitters that are pretty good. Man, Patrick Wisdom might get some looks now. Spencer Packard's a guy who can really hit. But you are so desperate for some righties at that position now that I think you go. Patrick Wisdom gets some sort of look in spring training at third base. You forgot Wilson using Bizzardo versus George Springer. I actually don't think, I know you could be mad at me for this, I don't think that was the worst decision. Bizzardo had an extremely high strand rate. He was great at stranding guys. The stuff was great with an upper 90s, 98, 99 mile an hour sinker, in on the hips to George Springer. And my evidence for why I think that wasn't a bad decision is because the Dodgers, who have the best scouting staff and some of the better pitchers in baseball as well, they did the same exact thing with their right-handers. They had them throwing sinkers in on the same exact spot to George Springer, who also was injured at that point, had just looked like he had, broken a bone after getting hit in Seattle, by that, a real, like a fastball. So that in on the hand stuff to Springer, I don't think was the antithesis of, why we got bounced from the playoffs. I think that was I don't think that was like a bad scouting job. I don't think that, that's not something I was like worried about. Yeah. I got Don. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Gotta go and get rid of all these lines that I created. Messed up all this stuff. I know this isn't as fun, but just correcting this chart so that better visual for you guys, and then add this line back into here. All right, cool. So we've got we got to get Brendan Donovan down here as a lefty. Here's kind of how we're looking. The right-handed reliever stuff, you could always use more pitching, but you also kind of want to leave the door open. I don't think that's unfinished work, not finishing your work to leave the door open for any of these guys: Troy Taylor, Alex Hoppe, Ryan Ludos, Cole Wilcox, Domingo Gonzalez, Yosver Zulueta, even Stephen Wraith or Michael Hobbs, to make appearances at some point and become a pretty good pitcher. Colin Snyder coming out of nowhere to be, a good relief option, Justin Topa, guys like that. Like, you want to leave the door open for some guys to emerge, let alone, Edward Bizzardo was one of those guys at one point in time. And, I know Wilson using Bizzardo definitely hurt, as a fan and stuff, but the Dodgers had the exact same scouting approach against Springer, throwing those sinkers in on the hands and stuff. And Springer kept destroying them, but they kept doing it. So I'm wondering, clearly that was the playbook on Springer, and clearly he had a counter for it, and that's part of why the Blue Jays in 2025 were so great and made it so far. Making it not only past us, but then to the Game 7 of the World Series and taking it almost, into the 11th inning before losing. So, that one, I don't think there is necessarily a good answer for that, except for that George Springer made, I mean, he did something that he shouldn't have been able to do based on the scouting reports. Not only that the Mariners had, but that the Dodgers had as well. And I mean, challenging the Mariners scouting reports, it's like that's somewhat reasonable as well. But when you go back now at this point and look at the fact that the Dodgers did the same exact thing, you're challenging both the Mariners and the Dodgers scouting reports. That's half of the top 4 teams in baseball. Yeah, so I think it's just like I don't that answer does not satisfy me. I don't think we have a lack of high leverage right-handed relief pitchers. I don't think that if we have another maybe even towards the playoffs, you could do something at the deadline. What if Las Montes is just balling out in Double A? What if some of these guys? What if Michael Arroyo? Michael Arroyo, we honestly need to get on here as well. Michael Arroyo is here. He's gonna be in Triple A, and he can be up this year. I'm gonna have to upload this clip now of Justin Hollander yesterday at FanFest talking about Michael Arroyo, saying he's gonna get a lot of hits in Mariners uniform. I need to go back and look at exactly what he said, but I think he said some stuff like, it could be something pretty soon. That we see happening. Anyway, I don't want to take Brendan Donovan off of this list. He can obviously play that position. You still have a big logjam at second base. You got a whole lot of guys vying for some reps. Leo Rivas is more of a play when you need him, not a guy you fit into the lineup like that. But he's going to, at this point, probably have to platoon against lefties, unless the Mariners just say, forget it, and I'll undo this in a second, but they might just go. And that's kind of rough. You might fit Robles there. When I said Colin Snyder, by the way, I was talking about how he came up with the Mariners and kind of emerged out of nowhere. I wasn't talking about, right now, currently, and Justin Topa as well. I think he's somewhere else. He's in another organization. But those guys came up through the Mariners system, weren't big time. Actually, no, sorry. Justin Topa we might have traded for. But Colin Snyder definitely came up through the Mariners system. We brought him up, and then he ended up being good. That's what I was referring to as far as the, Troy Taylor's, Hoppies, Ludos's, Wilcox's, Gonzalez, Zulueta's. You can leave the door open for a Colin Snyder to emerge. Somebody came in here and said, "Go Yankees." Hey, you guys in your division are going to have the peskiest team in the MLB in the Rays. They're the worst projected team in that division. But if the Rays end up being good, that would be the most Rays thing ever this year, in a year where all 4 of the other AL East teams are projected to and should be competing. You have the Rays end up with the most, the biggest mishmash of scrappy hitters that nobody else really knew what to do with. They're fouling off everything, namely Jake Fraley, Ben Williamson in this example. And then, they do have Edwin Uceta, who might be the most underrated closer in all of baseball. So there might be something to, that would be the most Rays thing ever if they end up competing in a year where every other team in the AL East is projected to compete and they're not. Yeah. Anything else before we get out of here? I'm going to go ahead and insert one more column here just to space things out properly. There we go. Anyway, if you guys have any more questions for me, let me know down in the comments below. Probably be back with a video about this tomorrow. How do the M's measure up versus the AL? If I'm looking at the teams in the AL right now, just off the top of my head, without doing any research, any extra research right now, I go, the Blue Jays are going to be good again. They made some big splashes in free agency, Dylan Cease and all that. Losing Bichette won't hurt them that much since they made it through the playoffs without him anyway, right? Made it through to the World Series, and he obviously was a great hitter in the World Series for him, but I think they feel comfortable with Jimenez and Clement, and they have a whole, IKF, all these really scrappy hitters that they have clearly some. It's like an almost inverse control the zone philosophy that they have where they swing early and then they mash stuff with guys that don't usually mash stuff. The Blue Jays are a scary team. I think the Mariners roster is a little more equipped though this year than last year. Once you add Brendan Donovan, um, yeah, and I think Gino Suarez, was unfortunately like their. I'm struggling to even find a good example because usually a team won't have a power hitter who's just having a terrible slumping year like that. Um, they won't have a power hitter who's hitting less than 200 and is somehow um, still in the lineup every day and stuff. Comes through with clutch homers. Um, I do think this is much better. Donovan fits much better than Suarez. The Mariners kept Cole Young. And shout out Game Day Sports Clips. Hi, good trade today. Nice to see you on the big screen yesterday, sir. Shouts out to you. FanFest was a blast yesterday. I enjoyed meeting everybody I did. Oh, and by the way, I don't even know if they're going to see this because I said I was going to fit them in. I was going to give them a specific shout out in in yesterday's video. And now we're over an hour into the stream. But wanted to give a shout out to Jacob and Lowe, these two people who ended up, my phone was dead after I spent all my battery recording dugout dialogue clips, and they took some pictures of me and sent them to me, so that I could get them when I got my phone on. But I got some good thumbnails for the season of me on the field during the run around the bases portion. That was in the 30 minutes that we had left after dugout dialogue had the last session finish. And shout out to everybody I met there, but especially Jacob and Lowe. Not sure if you guys saw this, but shout out to you guys for that. And I also, I gotta say, this fed my ego like crazy. Is I was just walking around the bases at the run around the bases after dugout dialogue is finished and stuff. I was kind of just hands in pockets, staring at the outfield, staring at the dirt, just enjoying the entire thing. And I was I was just staring at the outfield, and I had a Mariners staffer come over to me and say, "Hey, are you a player? These people want to take a picture with you." And there's this family, and the mom was like, "Yeah, my son was saying that you were the new draft pick for the Mariners," and I was like, "You don't know how much you just fed my ego right there." If I was, me looking like the Mariners' new draft pick, I mean, that is awesome, right? I don't know. I think they might have been talking about Cade Anderson, whatever it was. But I also, had so many people yesterday come up to me and say that I looked like Ben Williamson. Shout out to Cards fan here. Congrats, gonna miss him in St. Louis. Appreciate that, Dark Jaws. I will, I will say, you guys got Jurangelo, who clearly your organization was trying to pry away from the Mariners. Once this, trade goes public, that it's getting finalized, they don't report Jurangelo. They report Brendan Donovan is going. Ben Williamson, with the Rays piece comes out next. And then after that, they report that, Jurangelo is going. I think that the Cardinals said, hey, this trade is out in the public. Your fans are getting excited now, right? And we want Jurangelo. If you want to make this thing go through before there's any more, kerfuffle going on, give us Jurangelo. And you also had Shine Bloom, your new general manager, talking about how acquiring starting pitching, especially in the farm system, was a big priority for him. And now he's done just that. You got Jurangelo, who is one of the top pitching prospects in the major leagues. I don't think he's on the top 100 prospects list anymore. I don't even know if he made it on there at one point, but Jurangelo, obviously extremely unique with the switch pitching and stuff, but he has enough juice as a right-hander to still be like a top 100 prospect level guy when he debuts. D-Man 425, the Mariners overpaid, but this needed to be done for them. I don't disagree completely. I think the Mariners did what they had to do. It is what it is. Let me make sure something with the chat. Okay, sweet, there we go. But basically, yeah, the Mariners overpaid. You could say so with Ben Williamson and Jurangelo and Ty Pete going. I would assume that now Ty Pete is the piece going to Tampa Bay, or sorry, no, they're going to Ty Pete's going to the Cardinals as well. But what is Tampa Bay giving up to St. Louis to give the to get Ben Williamson? That is one question that I still have. What did Tampa Bay give up for Ben Williamson? Eric K5N, great role model for Emerson and Young. Hurts losing Ben, but this makes the Mariners stronger. I think that is a great point. And to your point, talking to Colt Emerson yesterday at Dugout Dialogue, one thing he said, direct quote, is I watch the guys around me. So Colt Emerson, more than most, is able to learn from role models. So in Emerson's case, then with Young, I mean, somewhat of a similar profile, not in the actual athletic profile. I mean, Young, a kind of a lanky, a little bit of a kind of lankier athletic build, whereas Brendan Donovan is built like a running back. He's 5'11", 210. But he is a good role model in the idea that he can be, scrappier in that way. This hurts losing Ben, obviously, like you said. Hurts losing Ben, but this makes the Mariners stronger. I would have to agree. Ben Williamson was my favorite Mariner to watch going into this year, but, the Mariners got an all-star level player who is going to make this lineup. I mean, they're going all in on just basically facing righties. You look at this lineup against right-handers, you got Brendan Donovan, Raleigh, Rodriguez, Naylor, Rosarena, Canzone. That is hellacious in terms of an onslaught against right-handed pitching. Then Cole Young should be able to show up as well. Robles, was leading off, less than 2 years ago, Victor Robles was leading off hitting 300 for the Mariners. So he has a really good opportunity as well. I think Victor Robles is going to be, especially now being one of the few righties left, and especially in this lineup against lefties. And then you look at JP, perfect number 9 hitter. He's the one control the zone guy you have left. He's the last man standing of the control the zone philosophy. Now getting to William. How do the M's measure up as AL West? Jim Riley showed the M's and Astros in dead heat by Fangraphs. I actually agree with that. I think that the Rangers are surprisingly, they're going to surprise some people too. I think the Rangers have a chance to compete for a wild card spot. The A's might have the best offense in the division, mostly because of their park. But they also have a lot of really good hitters and who can take advantage of it. Their pitching is just going to be suspect for sure. And when we go there, right, they're going to have a whole bunch of right-handers they tried out against us. These guys are going to go from playing in the Marine layer to going and hitting that ballpark. So I don't think the A's can compete in the division, but they'll be a kind of a fun fourth-place team. The Angels, who knows what they're doing, one of the most kind of prehistoric teams in terms of approach in the majors. You never know what's going on with their, are they really going to get Grayson Rodriguez to, pitch well? With the Orioles, it was like, oh, well, he's with an organization that's at least going to try. But with them, it's like, anyway, to talk about the Mariners and the Astros. I think that the Astros getting Tatsuya Imai was a huge boon for them. They have a whole lot of pitching. And also I think, it's very realistic that Yordan Alvarez is the best player in the division this year. And I say that with Seattle. I've got Mariners everything behind me. You can see all this Mariners stuff behind me. But Yordan Alvarez is such a good pure hitter. And especially the fact that he, going up against our pitchers, right? If the Mariners think that there's a whole lot of right-handers, right, that they can go up against and take advantage of, so does Yordan Alvarez, and so do the Astros with him, because, we've got all 5 righties in our rotation. a whole lot of other teams have a whole lot of righties these days as well. Left-handers are kind of just not only at a like there's not enough left-handers, not only in the Mariners organization where we've got this is the only position that I can list every single player of in this spreadsheet is left-handed pitching. We've got 10 total left-handers in the entire Mariners organization. We've got at least, I've got I got a good 30, 35 right-handers listed here. But maybe even 40. There's just a couple doubles between this, Hancock and I think actually that might be the only one. So, we've got at least like 40 to, we've got at least like I got 40 listed here, but we've got 60 something, like to 80 something right-handers in the organization. We've got 10 left-handers. And I say all that to say, that's kind of a long-winded rant, that Yordan Alvarez being a lefty, he might be the best lefty hitter in the game other than Shohei Ohtani. And it wouldn't surprise anybody if he had better stats than Shohei Ohtani in one given year, if he could just stay healthy too. So yeah, I could very realistically see either the Astros or I could very easily see them giving us a run. If I was to do this whole spreadsheet for them, I don't think you'd say, oh yeah, they've got like the 1 through 5 that the Mariners have in terms of Donovan, Raleigh, Rodriguez, Naylor, Arozarena. But I do think that you would see they've got some guys that fit their ballpark, and they would be able to give themselves a chance to beat the Mariners. Like if it were 3 games at the end of the year, and I would have to look at the schedule to see that. I can't think about but I'm pretty sure the MLB put at least one Mariners Astros series at the end of the year. If we go into that and it's close, they could beat us and take the division from us. I think we're the clear favorites. You look at the depth of superstars that we have, and not just superstars but stars. Randy, Naylor. If JP has an amazing year, his last year of his contract, contract year, you could even see, Cole Young emerging as a 270, 25 homer hitter. That's really optimistic. Maybe the high end, that's really a high end projection for this year. But Cole Young has all the stuff there, and he got BABIP last year. Back at the beginning of the stream, we went over some of those things. M Grub says, "Let's go." M Grub 90, let's go Mariners. I absolutely agree. Let's go Mariners. We should be excited as fans. We should be excited that we're making a big push, going all for it. I said yesterday, the most optimistic fan fest ever. When have the Mariners been this optimistic heading into the week? Into the week before spring training? I don't know. I can't think of exactly a time that the Mariners have been looking this optimistic heading into spring training. And going to do a quick refresh on Twitter here as well before I get to your comment, William, because we should be getting an official announcement from the Mariners at some point. That could come tomorrow. All the news is already out. They could be, doing medicals and all sorts of stuff. All right, so the entire trade, Mariners get Brendan Donovan, Cardinals get Jurangelo, Ty Pete, Colton Ledbetter, and a Comp B draft pick. So did the Rays trade, the Rays, I guess, traded this guy Colton Ledbetter, and a Comp B draft pick. I think the Rays got away with a steal here, getting Ben Williamson and giving up, but I'm going to go back to their prospects and see who is Colton Ledbetter. Because I know that name, but can't really remember exactly. Is he a reliever on their team? He might be. Number 24. I just didn't even go down far enough. Oh, the Rays got a steal, man. the Rays worked themselves into this thing. Jerry, being friends with the Rays, paid off big time for them. And I have to say, if it took Ben Williamson to do this, Jurangelo and Ty Pete was not going to get it done for an All-Star. Um, and I mean, they did not want to give him up. They did not want to give Brendan Donovan up, the Cardinals. But Colton Ledbetter, um, sorry, I'm gonna fix this. Make it so you guys can see this. So, yeah, hit tool, 45. That shouldn't be good enough to get a guy who at the big league level can be, I think, an elite pest level, pest type of player. They signed Jake Fraley because they were looking for that this offseason. And now they got Ben Williamson. So clearly they were looking to just kind of lengthen their lineup, kind of make their team, make it easier on the rest of their team. It would be the most Rays thing ever if they compete here. 2 seasons at Samford University. Okay, this guy's power. He's a power speed guy. Power run, 50 run. There's that, so you can see that. But after spending 2 seasons at Samford, Ledbetter transferred to Mississippi State as junior, quickly established himself. One of the best hitters in the SEC. 1,000 OPS in the SEC at Mississippi State. Second round draft pick. 822 OPS in high A, 16 homers, 109 games. Ledbetter's game's pretty steady across the board. No real standout tools. I mean, is this Luke Raley 2.0? Is he a lefty too? Yep, he's a lefty. Okay, this might, and how tall is he? 6'1", 205. So, whereas Luke Raley is a tight end body, Colton Ledbetter is like a linebacker body. And then, yeah, I'm going to get to your comments here in a second, William. Basically, yeah, they got linebacker Luke Raley, whereas Luke Raley is more of a tight end. And, he's pretty athletic, power speed guy, but not some elite guy, only 50, 50, 45, 45, 50. Maybe this guy's just better than everybody thinks. That's been the case for some prospects in the past. But I don't know. The fact that they were willing, obviously they were willing to give him up to get Ben Williamson. And Jerry called him up and he said, "Boy, do I have the deal for you guys. You guys are going to get the perfect Tampa Bay Rays type of player, Ben Williamson. All you got to do is help us make this trade with the Cardinals, and the Tampa Bay is like, yeah, sure, we'll throw in this guy, second round pick, in 2023, and he's only in Double A, so he's been a slow mover as a power speed guy. Obviously, went from a smaller school to a bigger school in college. This guy is probably not going to be as good as Ben Williamson, but it didn't matter because the team that they're trading him to, it just needed a little more in that haul to end up getting, end up giving up Brendan Donovan, and from his perspective, what's his name? From the Mariners' perspective, it's like, we don't care what you give up, right? We're giving you Ben Williamson to facilitate an all-star coming here. So now, William, let me get to your stuff. I think that's worth talking about. Anyway, back to the grid. M's minors week at 1B, first base, third base, and left-handed pitcher starters. Absolutely. You are completely correct about that. I guess we have 11 left-handers in the organization because the one I forgot is Cade Anderson. He's the only left-handed starting pitcher in the organization. So the Mariners are, weak at left. We don't really do left-handed starters because the Mariners have a type with starting pitching. If you look at our 5 here, Wu, Gilbert, Kirby, Castillo, Miller, all are low arm slot righties. That's the type of pitchers that the Mariners want. They don't want guys that come over the top, like if you remember watching Trey Savage in the World Series, right, coming way over the top. They don't do that type. And if you look at like lefties. They just really do not scout lefties that much. Um, then with first base and third base, I think it comes down to like they traded Tyler Locklear. Now they've traded Ben Williamson, right? They've just been willing to throw those guys in at trades. And at the end of the day, I agree with the scouting philosophy of you draft a whole bunch of shortstops and then you figure out the positions later because the most athletic guys, are playing shortstop. It is what it is. Um, Colt Emerson, Johnny Farmello, and Ty Pete. They're a perfect example. Ty Pete was a shortstop, moves to outfield. I think now he's pretty much a full-time outfielder. Colt Emerson, he's stuck at shortstop, but if he needs to come in to keep the what's it called? Like if Colt Emerson needs to come in to play third base. Sorry, my brain is scrambled eggs after I've streamed now for a good 2 hours, over 2 hours at this point. I'm going to do a quick hydration break before I get to your next thing. But yeah, first base and third base, it's because they draft shortstops and figure out the rest later. If you have some water, if you don't have some water, go get some. If you do, we're going to do a little hydration break here. Cheers, everybody. All right. Getting to your other comment, William. The M's were opportunistic going into the 2024 season with Polanco, Garver, and Gregory Santos. It is a crapshoot. I 100% agree with you. You might be referencing a quote that I've been quoting the last couple days, which is Eno Saris over at The Athletic. Been talking about this. A lot of the fantasy baseball community, which is extremely underrated, in their statistical analysis and stuff, talks about how, baseball is a data set that takes a long time to normalize. It's a large set of data. It's a large sample size being done in tiny increments. Like each at bat is like a 1/700th of the season, and it's a crapshoot. So like when you go into the playoffs and there's only so many at bats, right? Let alone something like the World Baseball Classic, it's one-off games and stuff. Anybody can win on any given day. This is the second shout out I've given to Jacob and Lowe, two people I was talking to at FanFest yesterday. If I didn't mention your name and I talked to you at FanFest, go ahead, throw a comment in. I'll absolutely shout you out on the next video. There was so many people who came up. It means the world to me, so I appreciate that. But they were mentioning that they're Canadians, they're Team Canada fans, and they're like, yeah, we're excited to see Naylor, play in the World Baseball Classic. There's not that many Canadian baseball players. It's like, yeah, but there is like Freddie Freeman, Matt Brash, like they have a whole lot of first basemen. They'll have to figure out the positions and stuff. And they're like, yeah, it's not like we have a chance versus these good teams, DR, US, but it's gonna be fun. And I was like, well, maybe they do have a chance because in one game anything can happen. Josh Naylor could hit 2 homers. Freddie Freeman could hit 2 homers. Bo Naylor can get his hits, and Matt Brash can come in and strike out the side for the U.S. in the 9th inning. So yeah, really, one game of baseball is always going to be a crapshoot. And getting back to the original premise, the Mariners going into the 2024 season with Polanco, Garver, Greg Santos. Gregory Santos being injured was like, it is what it is. Pitchers in injuries. It's really like you're not going to sacrifice good pitching, and trying to find good pitching, trying to develop good pitching to prevent injuries. That's just not. It's not worth it. It's feasible. You could tell guys to throw less hard. You could try to tell guys to throw with less spin, but that is not the right case. If the pitchers aren't good, they're not going to make it to the majors and contribute anyway. So that's you're going to get more dynamic in your pitching, more explosive, with every type of pitch you try to throw. So that's for Santos. Then as with Garver and Polanco, I think Polanco, it was an Edgar Martinez decision where, Edgar Martinez and his new hitting staff completely revamped and fixed the Mariners hitting philosophy for the maybe the first time in my lifetime. the Mariners really haven't developed hitters since maybe the 90s or 2000s. But even then, how much credit can you give a hitting coach for helping A-Rod or Griffey, or I mean, let alone Edgar himself, right? Did they develop, Ichiro, right? Those guys are kind of unicorns. It's hard to find a lot of examples of they just were developing middle of the order bats well, or, bottom of the order bats that were really, really productive. And with Jack Zarenzik, they definitely didn't do that. They were miles behind the times. Then with, so I think Polanco, he had that bad season in Seattle. His swing, if you go back and look at the swings that he was taking in 2024, sorry, you said the 2024 season, right? So, they definitely saw something in his profile at the beginning of that season they wanted to unlock, but it wasn't until Edgar took over as the hitting coach that they were able to unlock it, end of 2024, and then in 2025, once he had a full offseason, which the injuries were definitely plaguing him, all sorts of things. But Edgar got him to stop trying to be, Julio Rodriguez at the plate and start trying to be Jorge Polanco, who was one of the best contact hitters in baseball back in 2019, started the All-Star game. And I think, the home runs came with that, and he found his role. I'm saying that, Polanco, right? The Mariners, when they traded for him before 2024 season, they were saying, oh, we think that there's something in this profile that we can unlock. But they weren't able to unlock it because they didn't have the right coaching until 2025 when Edgar stepped in. And really, Edgar did step in toward the end of 2024 when Scott Service was fired. Dan Wilson came to the in as the Mariners manager. He convinced Edgar to work with him as the hitting coach at that point, and or at least as like an advisor to the hitting coach, work with him as a hitting coach at that point. And then Edgar agreed to come on full time as the hitting coach in the 2025 season. Now he's like the director of hitting for the entire organization, where Bobby Magallanes and Kevin Seitzer are the hitting coaches, who he clearly, they clearly gel with his philosophy. And that's why the Mariners unlocked Polanco then, but not in 2024. Then with Garver, that's where I'm willing to say it's just, you were looking at a guy who was good in the playoffs, who wasn't good after that. I think that's kind of comes down to, they needed a backup catcher. But with that $12 million deal, I think that they, definitely, it might have been inflated because of what he did in the playoffs, recency bias at that point, as well as, he had some 20 homer seasons in Minnesota. He had even some good defensive seasons in Minnesota before we would think of him as an older player, because I think he was a late bloomer. He was having these seasons in Minnesota, coincidentally with Polanco at that point, like 2019, 2020, 2021-ish. That he had his batting average was never good, but he was hitting 20 homers and having above average analytics defense. So, I think that the M's kind of felt like they had to get a backup catcher and got shoehorned into Garver. But the $12 million for, the $24 million over 2 years was something that definitely ended up being a massive overpay. If you have any more questions, throw them in the chat. Once these questions stop, I am going to sign off. I'll be back tomorrow with a full breakdown of this trade, probably in a video form, where I can prepare a little more and not be rambling so much. So if you have any more questions, drop them in the chat. If I don't get a question, we'll say in the next minute and 10 seconds, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I got to get outside, got to go see the sunlight myself today, got to go for a walk/run, I'm actually going to go to yoga in a bit here. But before I leave, I will wait if anybody has another question. With that being said, I appreciate the 12 concurrent viewers. I think is a record for the Dom Skiing channel. So appreciate all of you guys. Make sure to hit that sub button so that you don't miss any of the breaking Mariners news coverage and Mariners analysis coverage, where we go way in the weeds. We go find the real story in the numbers, find the real story in the tape. We actually go into the things a little further, not just discussing them on camera always, but it can be me discussing things on camera with the camera covering the full screen, and me just professing what I think about the game. But it can also be me up in the corner, and then throw a whole bunch of stuff on the screen for you guys to look at and to gnaw on while we we talk, that we can talk about and have a discussion about what's going on. Also, make sure you go look at the 1-0 podcast, first episode with Don Dishes. The guests that we have coming on that podcast, quite a few people who I talked to at FanFest are people that you would not ever expect this soon. So stay tuned for that. I am going to go ahead and sign off, go to yoga here in a minute. But thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys tomorrow. And I guess I'll just got to close out this channel's core values. 1-0 every pitch. Stay stoic. And give all glory to God. And if you do those three things, you can't lose. I'm definitely upset that Mariners lost my favorite player today, Ben Williamson. But I mean, it is for the better. The build of the team just changed. There is no longer room for that scrappiness in the lineup, and because you got an all-star. Cole Young stays. The real story here, one last time, recapping it. Brendan Donovan is a Seattle Mariner, and Cole Young was not part of the package. It was Jurangelo, it was Ben Williamson, and it was Jurangelo St. Jah, who I'll go ahead and backspace as well. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys tomorrow. And as